Hello everyone, I'm Elizabeth Shaw and this channel is all about the narcissistic personality disorder and ways to recover from narcissistic abuse. This video is the effects that narcissistic abuse can have on our brains. Narcissistic abuse is a hideous form of mental and some physical abuse and has so many devastating effects on us. Not only our mental health, but our physical health and our financial health also suffer. If you were with a narcissist that didn't physically hurt you, the mental abuse is slow and unseen, and it does take time to heal and recover. Neuroscientists claim it also damages our brains. These are extremely destructive results to our brains as a result of the emotional trauma the brain has suffered from the abuse. Once you've come out of a narcissistic relationship, you'll already know that you're left with things like anxiety, health problems, trauma bonding, loss of self, CPTSD. Yet over prolonged periods of abuse, the brain's hippocampus shrink over time from the repeated emotional injuries. The hippocampus is responsible for our memories and learning abilities. It's a paired structure tucked behind the temporal lobe and shaped like a seahorse. The hippocampus term comes from the Greek for seahorse. It helps with our short-term memories, and afterwards the memory is either lost or transferred into our long-term memory. Studies done state that under stress our body releases cortisol. The more this is released, the more it decreases the hippocampus volume over time. The longer you stay with an abusive partner, the more your hippocampus will deteriorate. This is why your feelings of confusion, abuse amnesia are worse the longer you are around the abuser. Damage to the hippocampus causes mental health problems. The long-term emotional abuse can also enlarge our amygdala, which is the part of the brain which controls our emotions, such as fear, guilt, grief, shame, jealous, envy. As narcissistic people keep victims in a constant state of fear, leaving them with anxiety, the amygdala reacts to this. It controls our life functions like heart rate, emotions for fear. It's also responsible for our survival instincts, such as the fight, flight, freeze or fawn mode. As it grows in size, so do our senses of fear, hate, love, etc. When you're living with narcissistic abuse, victims are in a constant state of fear and in the fight or flight mode on a daily basis. As the amygdala grows over time, it remembers through our senses things we heard, saw, smelt or felt. So any painful reminder can trigger our fears and emotional reactions. As our hippocampus has shrunk, we don't always recognise all the triggers, which is why it's a good idea to write anxiety attacks down to see what the lead-up was, so that we can regrow our hippocampus and shrink our amygdala by bringing our subconscious into our conscious. Another valid reason why no contact for those who were severely abused and minimal contact for those who were not as severe is vital. Always, things like checking their social media, it's a trigger and it's not a good idea and will prolong recovery. After a mentally abusive relationship is over, most victims suffer from lack of concentration, clouded thoughts, puzzled, anxiety, CPTSD, phobias, stress, panic attacks, due to the overactive amygdala heightening our fears. Victims' brains can then protect themselves with some subconscious survival methods like denial to escape dealing with the painful memories and emotions, the things that they didn't want to admit, think that they're imagining things when they weren't, or the abuse wasn't as bad as it truly was. Compartmentalization, where victims focus on the positive aspects of the relationship and ignore as many as the negative as they can. Projection, often blaming themselves for the abuse and believing the narcissist to be kind and caring, often with help of the twisted words from the narcissist, making it feel like it was your fault because of your reactions. Victims constantly excusing the abuser's behaviour and trying to work out what they did to set them off in the first place. The hippocampus needs to work correctly so everything we learn, read and do, experience and understand can be retrained in our brain's memories. The hippocampus is extremely vulnerable to ongoing or prolonged emotional stress due to releases of cortisol, which affects neurons in our brain's functioning, which then leads to difficulty in attention and learning as the cortisol attacks our neurons. As cortisol stimulates the amygdala and impairs our hippocampus, forcing our minds to focus on our emotions and making it extremely difficult to take in new information and reality. There are activities that, if done repeatedly, can restore and rebuild our hippocampus and shrink our amygdala back to normal. The very first step is leave the abuser. Daily meditation can help. Aim for as much as possible. It can repair and rebuild the brain's grey matter. Mindfulness helps to reduce the stress and lower our release of cortisol so our brains can heal and function. Some aromatherapy and essential oils can also help. Acts of kindness towards others and ourselves in daily lives, talking kindly to ourselves. EFT, emotional freedom techniques to help with anxiety. EMDR, where trauma victims work on processing traumatic memories whilst their eyes focus on external stimulants. Lots of self-care, time, work on your inner voice, less stress, finding more positive things, learning new things. Wherever you are on your journey of recovery from narcissistic abuse, you can and you will get through this. Keep going. Thank you for listening. Bye.